In this video I'm going to show you an easy way to clean the grates on your cook stove. What you're going to need is a propane torch, a wire brush, and a glove. Now if you're like me, I don't clean these grates every time I get done cooking, and you get grease spattering and eventually it builds up on these grates. So here's a easy way to get this stuff off without having to use chemicals or soak it for a half a day or scrub it down with steel wool 100 times and still end up with a sticky, tacky mess on there. Around the edges is where the grease usually builds up. There's a piece right there. And you can see it gets stuck in the corners. Now the middle of these grates usually stay pretty clean because they sit over the flame and they're covered by the pot, and that flame keeps the grease burned off anything that does manage to work its way in there. The grease builds up around the edges and in the corners. So I'm going to show you how easy this is. Slip your glove on. You only need one glove, and you're not going to get this thing real hot. You're just going to keep the flame on it long enough to turn that plasticized grease into carbon, and then we're going to knock it off with that wire brush. Now grease and oils will get tacky, and they're actually trying to turn into plastic as they sit there in that heat. And we're going to turn them into carbon. So there you go. That's all the heat you need. You don't need to turn this thing cherry red. You just need to get it hot enough to burn off all of the light oils and the VOCs in that grease. Turn it into carbon, and then you can just knock it off real easy with your wire brush. I found that a thin brush like this works best because you can get into the corners and the nooks and crannies. And it's just that simple. You don't need a lot of elbow grease or a lot of pressure. With that wire brush, let's do it again. There you go. It doesn't have to be glowing cherry red to turn that grease into carbon. Just enough to burn off all those light oils, knock it with a brush, and look at how clean that is. No chemicals, no scrubbing, and all that tacky, sticky stuff is gone. This technique works great for getting in the corners. If you've ever cleaned these things, you know how hard it is to get all of that sticky stuff out of the corners once it gets in there. And you notice just some light brushing and it comes right off. Be careful if you're concerned about the finish of your grates. Like I said, this stove is about 10 years old, so I'm not too worried about what it looks like. If you're particular about the cosmetics, this may not be the technique for you. Let's do it one more time. That's all the fire you need. And you just hit it with the wire brush. And look at how pretty that finish is now. Nice and clean. No sticky, no goop. Ready to go. Keep in mind that this is a fabricated steel grate. And you may want to be a little cautious if you're going to try this technique with cast iron grates. I've never tried it before with cast iron, but be forewarned because of the thermal expansion issues with cast iron. That's what the grease looks like after you've turned it into carbon with that torch. It just flakes right off. No scrubbing, no chemicals. You can do an entire grate like that in 10 or 20 minutes with minimal effort. Alright, that does it for this one.